Hello, and welcome back to the AusCannaPodcast. I'm your host, Christina McMullen, and on today's show, I'm chatting with someone who usually keeps a low profile, but whose work is changing how patients access cannabis medicine in Australia. Matthew Soliman is a compounding pharmacist at Cann Compounding with over a decade of experience. He specializes in creating custom medications for patients with complex needs. Think high-dose oils, cannabinoid suppositories, sugar-free gummies, and more. If your off-the-shelf oil isn't cutting it, this is the guy you want your doctor to talk to. In this episode, we break down what compounding actually is, how it's regulated, why it matters, and how it fits into the broader context of Australia's cannabis industry. We also discuss the challenges of working with raw materials, the impact of minor cannabinoids, and where things might be headed next. It's Matthew's first podcast interview, and he doesn't hold back. Whether we're talking distillates, formulation fails, or pineapple on pizza. A friendly reminder, if you want to support the show and help keep more episodes like this coming, you can do so over at buymeacoffee.com/AusCannaPodcast. All right, whether you're tidying the kitchen in a post-dose haze or taking a long way home to let your mind wander, let's ease into some rapid-fire questions before diving deep into the world of cannabis compounding. Are you ready?
When you're ready.
Okay. If you had to be named after a plant, what would it be?
After a plant. Probably like acacia. It's like nice and sturdy type of tree and, got some great properties. I like the acacia tree.
What's one thing people always get wrong about pharmacists?
Oh, that we just put stickers on boxes. I think that is probably the biggest misconception in the pharmacy world regarding pharmacists.
You've been asked to solve a mystery or a crime. What fictional detective are you bringing with you?
No, Sherlock Holmes. This is an easy one. Can't go wrong with Sherlock.
Is blink the plural of wink?
Is blink the plural of wink? Yes, I guess it would be. That's a good one. That's when if you close your winking both, you're technically blinking. That's okay, I'll give you that. I'll pay that.
Yeah, because you don't really winks.
Right. You can't winks.
What's one phrase or word you overuse without realizing?
Probably I get a lot of business from the girls I work with for using my man or my friend with patients and people because everybody's my friend. So it's like, hey, my friend, or hey, what's up, my man? I don't know. So I probably overuse that a lot more than I should.
What's your most controversial food opinion?
Most controversial food opinion. Oh, that is well, that's a hard one. That is a hard one. My controversial food opinion is the whole debate with pineapple on pizzas is just absolutely one of those things that is, makes no sense to me because either you have a pizza, you have pineapple on it, you don't have pineapple on it. I think really, I don't know, controversial. I don't think it makes. I think people are too passionate about pineapple on pizza or pineapple off pizza. I feel like there's a lot more passion in that field than it needs to be.
I agree. That is a very controversial topic. Are you team pineapple? Do you put pineapple on your pizza?
I'm pineapple agnostic. It's on the fence with the pineapples. I don't mind. I don't love them. I don't hate them. So yes.
What's your zombie apocalypse role? Leader, medic, wild card, or liability?
I'm gonna be a package deal of all four. This is just, I definitely a situation where I could see myself leading a situation, but also very much rolling into that medic line. But then also, just a constant walking liability in the background. So cover all bases in a good way.
I'm a liability, 100%. 100%. I want to say that I'm like this wonderful leader or I'm an amazing medic, but no, I'm a liability.
Carry me. That's what I would say.
One terpene you think is overrated?
Oh, good one. Actually, this is controversial as well. I actually think limonene is very much overrated because it is one of the. I mean, look, I think limonene is great for a number of things, but I think the hype around limonene, especially on its, sativa type like effects, I think that's been well overestimated and run with by a lot of people.
I like it. I like it. What's something you're weirdly good at outside of work?
Oh, that's a interesting one. Weirdly good at outside of work. I have I outside of work I have a lot of random projects, so I'm always working on something very obscure. So it could be one week I'm gardening, the next week I'm you know building up a shed or something, or building up a cat cage for my cat, which is of it. So for me, I guess weird thing. I guess it's just like I guess you'd see me doing diverse projects that you wouldn't expect me to do. I don't know what people would expect of anyone, but I do things I don't catch other people doing, I guess.
You're handy, is what it sounds like. You're very handy.
Yeah. And I love to work with my hands, which is why I do what I do.
Listener submitted a question. Tammy from Red Cliffs, Victoria wants to know, what's your I've officially switched off activity?
Oh, yeah. Pretty standard, I guess. Come home and once the PlayStation turns on, I'm off in that respect. But not every night. I think it's either that or working on my garden. And they're both things that that will switch me off quite well.
I like it a lot. They're very, man, being out in the garden, there's something beautiful about that.
I love it.
Last question. You've got 5 minutes to pack for a mystery trip. What do you grab?
What do I grab? Like in 5 minutes?
Yeah, that's all you got. 5 minutes. Go.
Mystery trip. Am I like? Is there any indication? Am I leaving the state?
No.
Leaving? No.
Well, you're leaving in 5 minutes, but go.
I guess a backpack with the basic essentials, a few changes of clothes. I mean, you mean like one product, one item, or in that respect, it was like what's essential? Good question. Probably a backpack with my essentials and my laptop, which I could do everything with my laptop offline anywhere until it dies. Then I'm useless. So, assuming power's still there.
You're like, I'm good to go, but if I lose power, well, then I'm screwed.
Yeah, well, what can I do with that? It's a good paperweight.
Well, that was delightful, Matthew. I enjoyed it.
Oh, likewise.
So for the listeners who don't know anything about you, do you mind giving us a brief introduction?
Of course. I would love to. So, as you know, my name is Matthew Soliman. I am a compounding pharmacist, I've been a pharmacist for over 10 years now. I originally I was at uni first. I did Bachelor of Medical Science, finished that. Then I did a postgrad in Master of Pharmacy in UWA. So I was in Flinders, then I went to Perth and then did my master's there. Pretty much as soon as I left uni, I went straight into compounding pharmacy. And for those who don't know what compounding pharmacy is, it's the art of personalizing and making customized medications individually tailored to medicine, tailored to patients. So for me, I really, I had intentions to do medicine and other things, but then when I went to pharmacy school, I did compounding and I actually fell in love with compounding. And I knew that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, which was a really good feeling to have at a young age because it means you're not sort of thinking about what am I doing next. And then as I was in uni, I learned a lot about like psychedelic medications. And I remember talking to a friend at uni back 10, 11 years ago and said, one day I would love to be working with, medicinal cannabis, psilocybin and other things. And he's like, well, we're not going to see it. And then 10 years later, I found myself here. And so basically I worked in community, I worked in compounding pharmacy, a bit in hospital, pretty much all around pharmacy everywhere, and compounding most of that time. And then about 2.5, 3 years ago. I came at the start of opening up Cann Compounding and basically headed up product development at Cann Compounding, which is making all the different formulations and things, which I'll go into a bit later. But yeah, so that was my journey to this stage, from being, just the community for compounding pharmacist, community pharmacist, to moving to something a bit more specialized and a lot more tailored, which is the world of medicinal cannabis.
I love it, Sarah. Let's start simple. What's your day-to-day like there at Cann Compounding?
Yeah, that's a good question. So look, day to day, I mean, my role is a bit different in the respect that I head up product development. So my role is always to look at basically what's out there, what's what we can do and where we can sort of innovate in the space. So a typical day, I'll come in and we'll have a look at, right now we're working on a few new formulations. So one that we're getting very close to is making medicinal cannabis chocolates and doing like a vegan chocolate. So it's using a vegan chocolate base. And so for us, for anything we do, it takes time to make something. Like one example I might use is when I first started, I made gummies. And at the time, nobody was making gummies. There was no commercial products of gummies. There was nobody at all. So there was no base or anything I could just use. So I basically had to make that whole dosage form from scratch. So coming into work, trying out different variations of different sugars, different waters, different concentrations. And after we make a base, I have to send it off for testing. And then when the testing comes back, we test our potency, stabilities. So every day there's a different, I guess, pipeline for different products. So every day we're looking at which product's coming through. Has the test results come back? Are we ready to launch? Is there something that we need to change? So it's an exciting day. It's very different to the standard community sort of pharmacy things where you're just coming in, you're doing scripts and going. And we've obviously got our dispensing pharmacists that deal with obviously the dispensing side of things, and the compounding pharmacists that deal with the compounding side. So yeah, it's a very interesting and varied day. It can be.
For people who've never dealt with a compounding pharmacy, how is that different from your standard pharmacy?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the difference is, I mean, we as a compounding pharmacy, we also do standard medications as well, like the standard prescription medications that come through. But we very much tailor things specifically to um, essentially to the patient's needs. So what's different with the community pharmacy, like a standard pharmacy, is they've got, medication that comes in from the supplier and the doctor's written a script for. It's a standard medication. And so one size fits all sort of situation. With the compounding pharmacies, we tailor that specifically to the patient. So we deal with things like minor cannabinoids that a lot of companies don't yet make things with. So, specializing there and able to tailor that a lot more specifically where you can't in a general pharmacy.
Yeah, again, it is. It's very tailored, and that's probably the best way to describe it. Is it one of those things, do you feel like you get to be more creative and like problem solving because it is so tailored to individuals?
100%. And honestly, it's one of the best parts of the job. We get times where I'll have a doctor will call up and be like, I've got this patient who can't take an oil for whatever reason or whatever otherwise. And it's like, what can we do? And it's, finding a solution to that, So whether it's doing like a CBD lollipop for a child or a specific pessary for a woman with endometriosis, we can tailor that dosage form where, nobody else can do that. And we can do it rapidly too, which is, real beneficial.
What formats do you mostly work with? Are you mostly working with like capsules and oils or creams?
We do a lot. I'm glad you asked that one because that one is like where my passion comes in. So we got creams, oils, suppositories, pessaries, chocolates coming soon, gummies, topical cream, obviously the topical side of things, but also things like lotions, patches. There's also patches not compounded, but like that's I think coming down the track, we're going to see more of them coming in. But then there's also obviously like with capsules, doing it with like whole flower capsules and with isolates in that respect, and then vape carts and like that side of things as well. It's pretty much any dosage form you can imagine. I can put some cannabis in there and make it work.
I love it. Is there any formats that you feel are kind of underused that you'd like to see more of?
100%. I would love to see more people uptake in the endo community pessaries for endometriosis. I've made quite a few different ones from full spectrum pessaries to isopessaries, and I've had such great results with women that it's just absolutely game changing for a lot of these women. I'd love to see more people uptake the pessaries and use them more because I think honestly there's a huge potential for like a lot of benefit there. Really see that.
I think that's one of those things that as a patient we lack the education on. Like, because as you and I are talking about it, I'm nodding with you, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But explain it to a listener. Why would they think that would be something that would be beneficial?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, 100%. So it's and this is honestly why I think you should always have a good compounding pharmacist. And there's a lot of good compounding pharmacists in Australia as well. So like a lot of them doing cannabis as well, and all of us like work quite hard to know why we would use a dosage form over another. And so in the case of endometriosis, a lot of times when somebody has endo, they might be put on an oil, maybe some flour, and it sort of helps sort of systemically, and it's generally a delayed response with the oils. Whereas with something like a pessary, which is basically a suppository that gets inserted vaginally, that goes in and it acts locally. So you're getting the absorption of the medicinal cannabis directly into the site, and as a result, you're able to get a lot better results for the patients than just say in an oil or a flour.
Yeah, that's basically it, right? Like you're literally putting the medicine where it needs to be. Um, what's the like craziest, most left field kind of compound request you've received?
Look, we do get some interesting ones. I mean, not, I wouldn't say crazy. I mean, some of them are, at first you look at them and you may question it. So I had, a really high dose, about a few years ago, a patient that was dealing with cancer at the time, and the doctor had, prescribed a rather high dose THC. They got it approved and everything. And it was just like, I'm talking, close to above 100 mg per mil type oil. And I'm just looking at it, I'm saying, if, anyone else would have like, half a mil of this or something, or like even a drop of this, they'd be absolutely whacked. But this person who was using it for their cancer was fine. Like absolutely, it made them feel normal, So it was just like, I thought that was really crazy. I was just like, anyone else would have a bit of this and they'd be out for a month, but this person is actually getting their quality of life back. And they unfortunately passed away, but up until they passed away, they had a much better quality of life up until then. So it's crazy, but it's exciting to see the benefits of these things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that is tricky about cannabis is that we all kind of react differently to it. We all experience it slightly different, and what works for one person may not work for somebody else. I mean, it is kind of like that with regular pharmaceuticals too. But I think because there's so much difference within the plant,
Mm,
and so because there's so much difference within the plant, we get different outcomes as patients.
100%.
And so I think that like what you're saying is to have somebody who is a compounding chemist who can understand and put some formulas together for like what you're saying, a person who maybe average Joe on the street would have been knocked on his ass, but this patient got quality of life back.
It's incredible. And that's why it's tailored, having these options for this patient prior to taking the compounded was, doing quite a lot of volume of standard oil to get anywhere near that amount. And, by that point, she's basically drinking a bottle. So, yeah, it's being able to tailor this to make it more accessible for the patient to do, 0.2 of a mil and get the same result.
I was gonna say, you gotta, from your perspective, you must see a lot more positive therapeutic outcomes because again, we're tailoring to the patient.
Huge, huge. And like one example I'll use, and this is quite a one that I talk to doctors a lot about because part of my role also is I do education with doctors. So I go out there and sort of talk to them about the cannabinoids, but specifically about the minor cannabinoids. And one specific one is we had this patient who sort of like mid-20s female was suffering about 8 seizures a day. Was on a number of pharmaceutical medications and just nothing was helping. We ended up sort of making a really tailored formula. And this is why I think it's really important to know everything from your distillate, as in what strain your distillate is from, and having continuation of supply for that. And you'll see how important that is when it comes to this story. But basically, we made this oil with a combination of a few select strains, as well as one of the strains was Charlotte's Web, which is one of the big strains for epilepsy. And we put in CBDV, which a lot of evidence now is showing CBDV very positive for epilepsy. And this lady went from having 8 seizures a day to completely seizure free, maybe one seizure a month. And when you see that, and you're like, that is incredible. And then this patient got switched to a different oil, which had THCV in it as well, but the seizures started back up again. And one of the big things is just because you might have a 3-to-1 oil and a 3-to-1 oil doesn't mean they're going to be equivalent. And I guess one benefit in terms of one of the big benefits in compounding is I can keep a consistent supply of the active starting material. And there's certain companies I've asked in the past, and I ask them what strain they're using in their oil, and they come back with, it's CBD biomass. So they can't tell me what strain it is. I don't know what's in there. So so having those scenarios like that one specifically where what we're doing, I know why, there's a rationale behind making that formula, and the results, they speak for themselves.
Do you think prescribers are aware of the possibilities of compounding?
Yes and no. I think some of them, look, all doctors are aware of compounding per se. When it comes to medicinal cannabis compounding, it's like you've got the doctors that are either they're fully into medicinal cannabis and they're all about it, and then they're the ones that are the most aware. The new doctors coming in who don't know much about it, they still got to get into the medicinal cannabis. Then they might look at it on the other side. I try to make it a bit easier because I speak to a lot of GPs, and I just try to get them in on the basic prescribing of medicinal cannabis, because a lot of these patients, they benefit from it, but they just don't know, and they just need that education.
What would your typical workflow as a doctor look like if you were, if they had a patient? I don't want to use endometriosis again because we just spoke about it, but let's say insomnia, right? Because there's a lot of patients that use medicinal cannabis for insomnia. So hypothetically, we have patient A, and what would your kind of your workflow with their doctor kind of look like? In the sense that does the formulation kind of come from you? Does it come from the doctor?
Question, yeah. So it depends on a few things. So if it's a situation, and I'll give you an example. So if we've got a patient comes through, they've been on a particular oil for anxiety or sleep or something, and this is actually a real world example. I had a patient, it's trouble getting to sleep with the oil they were on. And he was like, what can I do? And we spoke about options, and I sort of explained to the patient, look, there's other things, other minor cannabinoids, things like CBN, which isn't psychoactive like your THC. It's not going to cause it's not going to cause intoxication like THC, I should say. It is psychoactive, but it's not intoxicating. And that's something the same with CBD. CBD is technically psychoactive, but it's not intoxicating. And that's often what people forget. But if you're affecting anxiety, you're affecting the brain, it's going to make it's a psychoactive thing. So this particular patient was on a oil, I think it was a full spectrum CBD with THC. It was like a balanced oil, and they just weren't getting the best out of it. And so made the suggestion that, could do an oil or a gummy with, the addition of some other things, but it's something that obviously his doctor would need to have a discussion about. So often what will happen is the patient will go back to their doctor and say, look, they've spoken to the pharmacist and there's some options. Then the doctor will get in contact with me, and then I discuss with the doctor some options. Now, if the doctor's familiar with medicinal cannabis, they might have a formulation in mind, and they might say, look, I want to do this, this, and this. If they've never done before, but they want to trial it, I'll generally give them a good starting range to start with, sort of what most people will start with. The doctor would then generally write the script. The patient brings the script to us, and then we compound it here. Usually within a day or 2 days. Gummies can be up to 3 days, sort of thing. But yes, in that particular case, the patient followed through, ended up getting the oil, and started to sleep really. It was just, and I think all it was I just added, I think, some CBN to his balanced oil. It wasn't like I didn't do anything crazy or anything. I just added the isolate, which wasn't available anywhere else. And the patient started to get really good sleep. And then, give it I think it was like a few weeks later, the doctor just starts writing it for other patients. And it's like, okay, you got him. And this doctor, didn't write before, but it's just like having that flow on effect. It's just like, okay, that's what you want to see, So it's exciting. It is.
I was going to say, that's a win, right? That's a win.
It is. Absolutely. Absolutely. You get an outcome, and patients not taking benzos, you're happy.
Exactly. Like I said, that's a win. So I don't know why, but in my mind, I'm like, are you literally bringing in your own flour, decarbing your own flour, making your own oil, and making your own gummies?
Good question.
Why?
Yeah.
Walk me through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is to import ingredients. So as pharmacies, you can import ingredients from overseas if you have an import permit through the ODC. Now, not every pharmacy does that because they don't need that. And now it's a situation where a lot of local manufacturers and suppliers are supplying ingredients like distillate and isolate powder, so it's becoming more accessibly local. Generally, once we import, we don't do any functional change to the flower or otherwise. So we don't we're not decarbing any oils or anything in that respect. It's generally a situation we're receiving it as an active ingredient that we can then incorporate into gummies. So gummies will make the base, we'll make everything up, and then we'll incorporate that ingredient in as it is. So really, there's no modification of the product once it sort of comes. It's inactive.
So are you making them like one batch at a time for one patient? Or is there a situation where you've got like 10 patients that all kind of have the same formula? So you make a batch
Yeah. Yeah.
then
So
and
absolutely, no, that's pretty much it. So if it's a situation where, so in compounding, we can only make a product once we have a script. So you can't batch ahead in compounding because then you're manufacturing. So if it's a situation, because we get quite a lot of orders for gum, and our gummies are, people love the taste, so that's great. One of those things, once we get the order, it's if there's like 4 orders at once, then we will batch them up and then do a bigger run at once, and then we can do that a lot easier when there's more. Sometimes it's harder to do just one because you got to do it, get everything ready. So it's good because quite a lot of people are on board with it. So yeah.
I guess what I always wondered, is it just, you in a lab making it like one batch of gummies at a time for Tom, Dick, and Harry?
That's it. Well, when I first started, yes, it was just me in the lab with my 2 girls in there, and we just would pump out whatever we could.
Well, you got to start somewhere, right? You got to
That's right.
start somewhere.
That's right.
How do you validate consistency across batches?
Yes, yeah. So we're very quite anal with about all our validation and our methods of with checking everything. So pretty much we get our C of A's, they come in with our distillate, we're checking retest dates, we're checking endotoxicity, we're testing, we're looking at microbial, all that sort of things. And then once we've done we've got the C of A's, they pass our sort of checklist, we make our product, whatever it might be. And then we've got compliance and variance checks at the end. So the pharmacist checking the product will check the deviation. So we've got a standard weight where things have to sit. We look at the deviation. We've got water activity. We invested quite a bit for the gummies. So we've got a humidity cabinet in excess of a lot of money, I guess, but was basically designed so that we could make sure that our water activity of our gummies was, in that stage where we can give 6-month expiry according to the Australian pharmaceutical formulary. So it's that, and then we also have external testing too. So we send things off to be externally tested just to make sure that our potency, our stability, and microbial is all in check.
Third party
Correct. Third party testing. You are right.
Third-party testing. There you go. Would you say gummies are kind of like your number one thing that people are getting compounded right now?
Yeah, look, I think gummies is definitely the highlight. We do fast acting gummies too as well. So we've got this technology we've got from the States where basically it encapsulates the THC distillate in a nanoparticle, and as a result, it gets absorbed through soft tissue. So the gummies onset of action is 15 minutes compared to say 1 hour. And then we can do variation. So we've got a fast acting with a slow acting. So you get the immediate release of the fast acting THC and then the slow acting standard distillate, which kicks in an hour later. So that's where the real, I think a lot of people in gummies is a big dosage form for that reason as well. And I think very soon, within the next month or so, it'll be releasing a soft chew, a vegan sugar-free gummy, which tastes like Zappos. I really like it, but so that's hopefully in the next month I'll have that out as well. So I love my Zappo chews.
Do you notice that there's any specialists that really take advantage of compounding?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there's traditionally say non-medicinal cannabis compounding specialists, like especially things like dermatologists and certain types of specialists, they would use it a lot more. I think there is, in terms of medicinal cannabis, in terms of specialists, starting to see a bit more pop up in terms of pediatricians, which has been really good, and psychiatrists a bit. So the pediatricians now, again, sort of mentioning before about the CBDV for epilepsy, it's actually been shown really beneficial, really positive for autism. And specifically things like violent autism as well. So we've had a child that was quite violent, autistic child who was quite physically abusive as well to his family. A young child, very young. Put him on a CBDV formulation. About 2 months in, the child's now non-violent again. So it's like those are the specialists that I really sort of see take a hold to it, but it's still very like early days as well. So it's a bit of you got to get it amongst the water cooler for 'em. We'll see what happens.
No, but I love it because you're more on the front line than a lot of people are in the sense that, I guess that's why I was asking the workflow questions at the
Yeah.
beginning. Like you're really involved in ensuring that positive therapeutic outcome because, again, I asked a little bit about creativity and problem solving. That is what you're doing.
It is. No, it 100%. I mean, to the point where about 2 years, we've got one, like, because we don't, in terms of like flowers, we GMP our, like, if we're getting flowers, we'll GMP pack our flowers. And I'm quite specific about that too. About 2 years ago, I went to Portugal to go to a farm specifically to track down Australian. Like the thing was for me, it was very much a situation. It's not just, oh yeah, I'm just going to buy flour and sell it. It's like, well, I want to know that there's going to be something there. So I go down, speak to the growers, and then speak to the growers about doing custom blends with, CBG or, CBN in the strain or something. And it's just, so for me, I take it probably a lot more further than say it just the standard, like if I was just doing community, so to speak, and just dispensing that, I guess, because I'm doing the product development, there's a lot more I have to sort of take on board. So yeah, it's I love it. It really, I'm learning a lot every day.
So, do you source Australian grown flowers? Just because you were talking about being in Portugal,
Yeah, so that was back when there was nobody in Australia.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Few years ago.
Yeah, no, that was yeah, no, absolutely. So at the time when I went, I was looking in Australia, and I went to like maybe 2 or 3 growers, and all of them were still about like, there was some that were ahead, and I did have a look at the time. So Simra at the time was one of the only ones that were sort of doing it, and at the time back then, I think we got some of their flower a long time ago. But yeah, at the time it was very much, yes. And to be honest, now, like I would barely even look at flower now. It's like the main focus for me is obviously the compounded side of things.
Do you find it easier to source things overseas than locally?
Yes and no. So it's the Australian market is picking up very quickly. So, as an example, for me to buy something like a distillate now compared to, 2, 3 years, even 2 years ago, the price has come down about a decent amount in that time because the suppliers are growing. And then as they start getting down more, then it makes it easier. The supply in America and Canada, because you can't import THC from America, but you can import CBD. There's certain things that are like, legality type things, but the supply is definitely more consistent overseas and more reliable in that respect. Whereas, and specifically for us as compounders, because we do a lot with the minor cannabinoids, there's not a great deal of suppliers. In fact, there's not many that do minor cannabinoids in Australia. And the ones I've spoken to, the amount to just a quote itself would cost me more than sort of a lot of the other things, which is, quite hard to work with. But yes, I mean, look, I'm hoping it changes. I'm really hoping that I can because one of the big issues is if I run out and I haven't sort of planned ahead, because I have to get import permits, I need to get them cleared. I need customs to get cleared. I need to pay for customs. I need to go make sure it gets through. It doesn't get held up. And then if they detour, it can be an issue. And, there's a case of back in the day where I ordered something and they made a mistake of detouring it through America instead of coming straight here. And because it went to America, it was the product itself had a bit of THC in it, and you can't export out of THC from America, so that it became a whole legality. And only because the plane detoured. So look, I'd like to get rid of all those issues and just have it local. And I'm hoping a lot of the people who are manufacturing start focusing on miners more, because that's where a big portion of my time goes. Because yeah, I feel like that would be good. But yeah.
I'm with you. I do wish that our local guys would start leaning a little bit more into those minor cannabinoids,
100%.
right? Man, I feel like it's a huge opportunity.
Oh, the benefit is so it's there, and it's just one of those things that I really would love to see. more. I think it would be doctor driven. I think if doctors start writing more of it, then a lot of these companies will realize that's where their money is going to go, and then they will start making those products. But right now, all the craze is THC and CBD, so there's no desire to go to the minors.
I was just about to ask you, how do we start having those conversations between like it's so many layers. You mean the regulators, the pharmacists, the producers, the patients, the doctors, like we all need to kind of be having these conversations.
And I'd really, for me, I'd really love to see some regulation changes here for the minors, because right now they treat every minor cannabinoid, including CBDA, which is the acid form of CBD, as the same schedule as THC. So they're all listed as Schedule 8 medications, yet none of them can cause any sort of issues. Unless, look, if you're doing, huge doses of THCV, you might get, a bit of a psychoactive effect, an intoxicated effect. But for the majority of it, like things like CBDA, which is like I said, the acid form of CBD, it's a wildly strong anti-inflammatory. It's been compared to things like Celebrex, which is like one of the strong anti-inflammatories you get from a pharmacy. And the action of CBDA is almost comparable, and it's got none of the side effects that you get with your traditional anti-inflammatories. Yet it's scheduled as a class Schedule 8 medication, when the only difference from it to CBD is like one acidic group on there. So it's like it makes. Yeah, so it's to me, I would love to see them down-scheduled, because then I'd see more doctors writing it, and then more doctors getting involved, and then more patients getting benefit as a whole. And that's really what I'd love to see in the next year.
I was gonna say I couldn't agree more, sir.
Absolutely.
It's one of those things that I did. Oh man, I think a lot of people would benefit from a little bit of CBD in their life, and I do think that if because we were talking about CBN earlier, I do think that if more patients knew that CBN is starting to show promise as far as making you sleepy and sedative. And I mean, again, there needs to be more studies, but it is starting to show this promise.
Yeah.
And it's not, like you're saying, it's not psychoactive. It's not bad for you. I think that if more patients knew about it and more doctors were willing to prescribe it,
Yeah.
I genuinely do think more people would be like, yeah, at night I take my CBD and my CBN gummy and it's, sleepy day.
Agree. Absolutely. And certainly, like things like, for instance, CBD, CBGA, so CBD, CBG, and CBDA, gummy or a capsule is such a good anti-inflammatory, and it's so basic. It's like basically virtually no side effects with it, and it's like really well tolerated. You can give it to any age, and it's just one of those things like, if the person does it consistently, they find that their overall inflammation drops. And very much a situation I had, it's actually a good friend of mine who's also a patient. I'm sure he won't mind, but I'm not going to say his name. But anyway, he has pretty bad back issues, and he was on a number of opioids, can't take opioids. They don't agree with him, and didn't really want to be on THC because he works a very manual labor job. So I ended up getting him on a combination of just CBD and CBG. It was a really simple gummy, and he was taking it, and he took it for a month, and he said to him, I go, how you going? He's like, oh, look, I don't think they're doing much. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Stopped it for a week. A week later, he was back at the pharmacist. Like, all right, give me some more.
The way I describe it to people is that it's kind of like an allergy medicine. You got the stuffy and the runny nose, and you're like, oh man, I feel horrible. Oh, it's allergy season. Okay, I gotta start taking my medication. So you start to take it, and then like a month later, you're like, no, I feel great. Like, look at me, I'm breathing through my nose. I feel great, right? And so you stop taking it. And then like day 4, you're runny nose, itchy nose, and you're like, what the hell's wrong with me? And you're like, oh, the allergy medicine.
And it's the same thing. The same thing goes with oils as well. Like, and that's the thing. One of the big things is like educating patients on the difference between, I had a patient between isolate and full spectrum. She had a 200 mg per mil full spectrum, and her daughter had a 300 mg isolate. And she took her daughters thinking it would be stronger, but it, surprise, wasn't. And then it was like just that education. I'm like, all right, one, don't take, other people's medication for one, but 2, let's talk about what's going on here.
Um, to follow up with that, do you have a demand more for full spectrum or more for like precision based isolate formulas?
Good question. It's a mix. So look, I have a combination where I've got doctors who will do. I've got one doctor in particular who will do full spectrum with isolates on top. So he'll really customize it. So he's got 100 mg per mil CBD full spectrum. Then he'll add CBG or CBC or CBN, and he gets some. Actually, to answer that question before about like what's the most craziest formulation, it'd probably be this guy's formulations because they come in and I'm like, wow, okay, where did you think of this? And this is a doctor who, when he first started, didn't know very much about medicinal cannabis. I got him started on it, and then he just went down the rabbit hole to the point where he's like, Matt, I'm trying this now. I'm like, great, let's do it. And it's some good results. But yeah, so to answer the question, look, it's a mix. I think we're seeing, look, and it will come down as well to the doctor's category of approval. Because, like, for instance, in New South Wales, they can't go higher. You can't do compound or anything above sort of Cat 1, so Schedule 4. So they can't do any sort of like isolates there. Whereas other states a bit more flexible.
That's gotta be frustrating to know that, like, well, one state you can do this, but another state that you can't, and gotta check that. Where are we writing this script
Mm,
from?
yeah.
Do you wish that it was the same across the board?
Yes and no. Look, it's like some states are better for some things and some are worse for other things. So, for instance, like in Queensland, they're very strict with repeat intervals. So, if you're getting a script in Queensland, if you're not in that, if it hasn't got a repeat interval, they won't even dispense it. Whereas with other states, it's a bit more lax to it in that respect, or a conversation with a doctor, or otherwise, it's there's that movement. And even things like, for instance, I worked in WA because that's where I studied. And in WA, if you go to a pharmacy with a Schedule A prescription, like medicinal cannabis, it gets locked into that pharmacy. So you can't take it out of that pharmacy if you go elsewhere, because any S8 script in WA, unless it's changed since I've worked there, it has been a while, but I'm pretty sure it's still the same, where you go to a pharmacy and you keep your Schedule 8 scripts there. So, I mean, that was even pharmacy coming from WA to Adelaide and people getting back to Schedule 8 scripts for me. I was like, whoa, we shouldn't be doing that. But every state has their own things.
That would drive me insane.
It does.
Where do you see compounding going in the next few years?
Well, it's a good question. For specifically medicinal cannabis, I guess we're talking there. I would say very much. I think look, I think we're if things go to rec, which they may do in the next few years or maybe longer, who knows? When it goes to rec, we're going to see a lot of the flowers people get moved to rec. I don't think we're going to see many doctors prescribing flowers after that. There might be a few that still would recommend it, and I think that there is very much where we'll see a bigger explosion in medicinal cannabis in compounding, because it's a situation where if everybody who wants it for rec use is getting it to rec, then the people who just want it for medical use will focus in on those medical conditions. And there's where the tailored doses come in, specific for certain conditions or pain, or it might be back pain, it might be for endo, it might be for something otherwise. That's where I think I see compound going. And I think as doctors get more aware about the minor cannabinoids, we're going to see a lot more formulations with minor cannabinoids getting included, and things like the terpenes and the phytocannabinoid, and doing the whole profile to get a more complete picture.
Do you think we'll start seeing personalization based on like people's genetics and like biomarkers?
Good question. I was actually talking to a psychiatrist about this the other day, and we were talking about a patient who wasn't tolerating, a particular and didn't have a particular enzyme. And I suffer from this too. Actually, is I don't have the enzyme to convert THC orally. So if I have a gummy orally or any form of edible THC, it just does nothing for me. And that's where I think genetic testing really does help a lot. And there's certainly with working out which ones are going to be, really active, what's not going to be active, or why a medication doesn't work for one person or works for another person. I think there's going to be I think if that gets incorporated more, we'd see a lot more better personalization.
That's something that I wonder about, like, myself as well, right? Because I'm very open in the show about how I suffer from the first pass effect, which is similar to what you're saying,
Yeah.
right? Except it's not that I lack an enzyme. It's just my enzyme is too damn good at its job,
Yeah, right. So
right? And so it's not just THC and like it's not just THC and edibles. Like it's antibiotics. There's reoccurring things throughout my life.
get out the genetic test.
No, I haven't, and I should, and I do wonder about it, right? I'm curious because now I just downplay it, and I'm just like, oh, it's just that ginger gene. You know how The ginger gene room.
Yeah, right. My sister-in-law does that. That's all right.
Yeah, so I just blame it all on the ginger gene.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
I have an uncle who's a hematologist and oncologist. And way back in the day, I used to take Excedrin migraine
Yeah.
for my migraines. Anyways, they pulled it off the shelf and blah, blah, blah. You couldn't get it anymore. And I was like, basically, like, I wasn't in tears to my uncle, but I was all upset about it.
Yeah,
It's like, this is like my first reach before I start reaching for other drugs when I have a migraine. And my uncle, I remember, no shit, looked at me deadpan and was just like, well, just go to the pharmacist and have them make it for you. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, just go and have them make. And what are you talking about? Like the whole concept to me, like just blew my mind. What do you mean? I can just go to a pharmacist and say, hey, make this for me.
Yeah.
And now here I am at 46, and I gotta say my monthly message to you, Matt, where I'm like, hey, can I get a refill for my goodness that's tailored just for me?
Literally, yes.
In the back of my mind, I'm like, damn, my uncle was so right.
Yeah.
It is. It makes, if you've got a doctor that you can have the conversation with, and again, it's not that it's crazy. It's not that it's wild.
No, not at all.
It's just.
It's actually the original form of medicine, pharmacy, if you will. I mean, that's what we were doing before we had manufacturing companies. Is you go to a pharmacist and they would make something up according to the script. And now it's just gone to the, stickers on boxes.
Stickers on boxes.
Stickers on this.
I love it. Full circle, man.
Full circle. Right. There's a bit of foreshadowing there from the start, I think.
Well played, sir. Well played.
Well, I like that. You gotta have a bookend. It's just
no, you do. I think now I don't even know how to end it because it's just a full circle.
That's so good. It's no. Just on that note there, though, if it's a situation, I will say this: like, if there's anyone that is interested in medicinal cannabis compounding or otherwise, I would encourage them to have a chat with your doctor. And if the doctor is not aware, have them a chat. Give me a call. Like, call us at the pharmacy or any, I say any compounding pharmacy because I think we're all very good. But obviously, it's one of those things that if they speak with a compounding pharmacist, they'll be able to get especially if your compounding pharmacist knows their stuff about medicinal cannabis, you can actually have a really tailored result as opposed to just if the usual stuff doesn't work. So I think really encourage people to have a chat with their doctors. Know about compounding, they're familiar with it. Some doctors are more receptive, some might not be, but then that's when you call us and we make them hopefully a bit more understanding to what we can do for.
I think the big thing there, sir, is just dialogue. You gotta have the dialogue.
That's right. Exactly.
You just gotta have a conversation.
Exactly. That's key. Absolute key.
I feel like that was a great call to action. Like, I don't even know where to end it now, Matt.
I love the bookend, yeah.
Well, there you go. Thanks for coming out, Matt.
No, that's me. Glad I could be here. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap for today's show. A huge thank you to Matthew for giving us a sneak peek into the world of compounding. If this episode gave you something new to think about, I'd appreciate it if you'd share it with a mate or leave a 5-star review. It helps more people find the show and join our community. If you want to go a step further, you can support the podcast directly at buymeacoffee.com/AusCannaPodcast. Until we meet again, friends, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen. And remember, your legacy isn't what you achieve, it's what you enable others to achieve.